All right, as those seniors move on with their lives and their careers, some realize they play their final football game, while some hoping for a future in the NFL. We turn our attention now to some future Bulldog stars as we say hello to our AJC recruiting expert, Chris Kirschner, who has been in San Antonio all week covering the U.S. Army All-American Bowl. Chris, good morning to you. You know, in addition to Jacob Eason and Ben Cleveland and a lot of other five-star prospects in San Antonio, the #1 rated tight end, Isaac Nada, is also there, ready to make his future known during today's game, right?
Yeah, Isaac Nada, nation's #1 tight end. He's going to make his decision in the next couple of hours. His finalists are Georgia, Michigan, and Alabama. Right now, I think he's going to go to Georgia. He has a really great relationship with Jacob Eason, and he's let me know that Jacob is a guy that he can see himself playing with for the next 3 or 4 years. And if he does decide to commit to Georgia, the Bulldogs would be getting an elite pass-catching tight end and a very above-average run and pass blocker.
Now, Chris, even though NCAA rules have prevented Kirby Smart from communicating with these recruits over the last few weeks, how much of an impact has Kirby had on the Bulldog recruiting efforts so far?
What I can say is that Kirby Smart's addition at Georgia has been huge with recruiting, especially with 4-star safety Nigel Warrior out of Peachtree Ridge. Before Kirby Smart was at Georgia, I believed that Alabama had the best chance at landing him, but now that Kirby's on board, I think Georgia is trending in a positive direction and Alabama in a negative direction. And I can say that multiple recruits has told Dog Nation and SEC Country that they are on the verge of committing to Georgia, and that's going to be something to keep an eye on for the next couple of weeks.
Huge news out of San Antonio. Chris, thanks as always for your insights, and we look forward to checking in with you over the coming weeks. It is hard to believe. Just 4 days remain before signing day on Wednesday, and we wanted to check in with our recruiting expert from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Of course, it is Chris Kirschner. Chris, always good to see you. Appreciate your time this morning. Let's talk about Kirby. His first overall recruiting class in Athens. When it's all said and done, how do you think it's going to look?
Yeah, you know, with limited time, Kirby's done a really good job. Right now, Georgia has a top 10 class, and that includes 11 4- or 5-star recruits. Now that number is important because, as we've seen in college football, the more blue chip prospects you have, the more likely you are to win championships. Alabama this past season had 77% of these blue chip prospects on their roster, while Georgia only had over 50%. So when signing day comes around, Kirby Smart has positioned the Bulldogs to land several more of these elite prospects come signing day.
That is huge.
Absolutely. Now, we already have some commitments, but who are some of the 4- or 5-star players still out there that could make the difference between making this a stellar class and just an okay class?
Yeah, 2 guys in particular stand out right now. 5-star athlete Nicole Hartman Jr. out of Elbert County, and Georgia's #1 prospect Derek Brown, 5-star defensive tackle out of Lanier High School. If I had to give you one surefire prospect that's going to commit to Georgia come Wednesday, it would be Hardman. Just recently, he said Georgia is recruiting him the hardest right now, and he's also been promised the #4 if he does commit to Georgia, which happens to be his favorite number.
What's it like to cover these guys on the recruiting beat for a while? You've been doing it month in and month out. Now it's go time. What's it like finding these guys on the trail? You
know, every interview I do, I make sure I ask the recruits if they have a leader, even if I know the answer and even if he doesn't, because it just changes by the day. But, you know, it's really enjoyable to, tell the stories of these recruits on their journey to arguably the biggest day of their life.
Over under is 1,000. That's the number of times kids will flip in the next 4 days as they determine their college future. Chris, we appreciate your time. We'll see you in a few minutes, and we'll also have your analysis after signing day. And he will also be with us on this show in about 8 minutes to explain what determines whether a high school player is a 5-star recruit or a 3-star recruit.
Back to recruiting as we say hello again to AJC's Chris Kirschner. Now, Chris, Coach Smart, he really has a reputation for being one of the best recruiters. What separates him from other coaches?
Yeah, there's one thing in particular that stands out to me. When talking to recruits, Kirby makes it clear that he wants players to call him by his first name, Kirby, not Coach Smart. So, and we've also seen him, really goofy stuff, just sticking his tongue out in pictures with recruits, just things like that. So, he does a really good job of connecting with the players on a personal level.
And relationships are everything, Chris.
So down to earth.
Yeah, without question, down to earth. And sometimes a 5-star recruit, maybe not so down to earth. Jacob Eason definitely is, though. But everybody, whether it's the coaching staff, Chris, or fans that follow this stuff on your blog day in and day out, it's all about recruiting stars. A 5-star is the best of the best, an elite athlete, an elite player. How does one become a 5, 4, or 3 all the way down to 1? What's the different determining factors in becoming a 5-star overall athlete?
It really comes down to game film. Analysts want to see what the kid does each and every Friday night. You can have the fastest 40-yard dash time, but if you don't show up in the games, your star ranking is going to be affected.
What they say, right? Film don't lie.
Never does.
Chris, we appreciate your time, and we'll see you later on next week. More insight. He will join us after signing day to get an evaluation of how Kirby and the Bulldogs did this recruiting year.
Georgia was one of 3 schools, along with Alabama and Ole Miss, to sign 3 5-star prospects. Overall, it was a success because, with limited time, Kirby really put together a solid class.
The negative is that Georgia is still pretty thin at offensive line after 4-star prospect E.J. Price chose to attend college on the West Coast.
He was one of the guys that I considered pretty much a lock to go to Georgia, and he surprised a lot of people when he chose USC. But moving forward, the class of 17 is going to be really, really focused on offensive linemen.
One thing is for certain, signing day is only going to get bigger from here as schools continue to try and outdo one another.
I do think that the future of signing day is what Michigan did this past Wednesday. Jim Harbaugh invited Derek Jeter and Tom Brady for its signing of the Stars event. Just thinking about it, how cool would it be if Samuel L. Jackson, a huge Bulldogs fan, introduced Georgia's newest class? I think that's something that would entice recruits for sure.